that happens a lot, though. I mean, it happens a lot to guys that get red pilled, if you will, or they get, some insight while they're married, and then they're like, "Holy shit, I need to do some different things." So that's fine. That can happen. And that's like half the audience here has probably done this or been guilty of this or in this sort of situation or whatever. So I recommend that these guys get better at game and actually, tune into channels like mine, and some of the other guys out there that are a little bit more nuanced, and have higher level discussions about these things. So you're not, just having a low level discussion trying to, you know, get us, trying to get a psychological diagnosis on some girl on the internet from guys that don't know the girl and, don't have a lot of skills in this stuff. It just looks bad. And then, by the way, when she went through that phone, if a girl finds that thread where you're talking about her and trying to break her down, even though that should be locker room talk, right? I mean, what do you think about that, Jack? I mean, that's not going to go good for the chick.
Well, I mean, first of all, how the hell did she get his phone? That's one. Like, that's what I'm wondering. Like, how did you get into his phone?
Right.
Because we just mentioned locker room talk, but how many guys are still in the locker room? So your locker room is probably digital.
Right. It's a digital
So
room.
so that's where I'm kind of wondering, like, oh, hold up. Like, if you want to discuss things with your buddies, first of all, his number one mistake, though, was doing it in a group chat with her brother. That
Yeah,
is
right.
that is his bad, where it's like, dude, discuss those things with your best mate. Because her brother, since it's family, is probably going to be on her side. So you
Yes.
will not get sympathy from her family. You just won't. Like there's a
Right.
dozen thousands of cases even in divorce and whatever. So these petty squabbles, which they really are,
Yeah, they are.
he's gonna pick her side. So that was a mistake on his end. But like the skimming through the phone, it's like, yeah. Then I've got questions when considering her. However, seeing the situation for what it is, can you really blame her? Where it's like, hey,
Yeah.
my husband, my boyfriend is really acting weird. I don't know what's going on. I guess she wanted
Yeah.
some answers as well. Looking at how it was described, I don't think she could have a very decent conversation with him since he's acting out of fear so much. And he's trying
Right.
to maintain frame, which is gonna be terrible from what we've seen so far.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Well, and this is where like I guys need to review, like, these are boundaries that need to be talked about, especially in like long-term relationships like marriages, for example. Things like going through the phones, right? What's appropriate there. And I there's that's a controversial topic, because the reality is guys are full of shit too. Let's just say it, right? Girls don't want us going through the phone, not because they're always doing something wrong, but because there's that innate drive to want to have the freedom to do something wrong. You know what I mean? It's like they're not necessarily that they're going to talk to the guys or do the wrong shit, but they innately want the freedom to mate switch. I think it's something and so that makes them feel trapped to know that a guy would go through her phone. But it's the same with dudes, though. There's a degree of us not wanting her to go through our shit, even if we're not necessarily doing other shit. And so it's really funny because that'll be a really polarizing thing in the chat. Like guys will be
Well,
like, she
it
can't look through my phone, you know what I mean? It's like, And so it's an
it
interesting thing to talk about boundaries with that, particularly in a
it
marriage.
well, it is a sense of privacy where it's like, honey,
Yeah.
look, if I'm gonna cheat, you're the first one to know. However, there are things on my phone I want to keep private that I discuss with my best mate that
Yep.
I just feel more comfortable with him. And then you're probably gonna get that whole talk like, why aren't you comfortable with me? Honey, many men and women are different, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. It's just some things I'm gonna discuss with my homies, not with you.
Yeah, right.
Perfectly fine. So, but if you really have nothing to hide and maybe she kind of needs your phone for whatever reason, her phone is empty or whatever, and she just asks you like, hey, can I borrow your phone? I mean, sure. I've had girlfriends where that happened, where it's like, honey, phone, boom, I got it. Like,
Yeah,
no and ifs or buts. But that did not begin or start as, well, honey, I find that I should look in your phone.
right.
Like, this is now my boundary. You should let me look into your phone whenever I want to. It never started out as that.
Yep.
It was more of a thing where the relationship just went well.
Yep.
And at a certain point, I just needed something. I can't even remember what. I'm like, honey, can I borrow your phone? She's like, sure. Unlocked it, everything.
Oh yeah.
And yeah,
I
go
was
ahead.
just saying, my recommendation for guys is to run your life as congruent with yourself. Whereas if she goes through your phone without your knowledge, you're not embarrassed about anything that's in there. I that's
I
my
just want to
advice.
say one thing though here, Paul. Like,
Yeah, throw it out there.
so I mean, we don't have a whole lot out to call our own after we get married or in a relationship. You know, like you have no privacy, right? You can't even take a crap in the bathroom in peace. You know, like can we just have one thing? Can we just
Yeah,
have our phone, please, please, ladies, please?
absolutely. And absolutely. But here's the thing though. Here's the
But
thing.
it's like, here's one more thing I want to real quick. It's like if you're looking for dirt, you're gonna
Uh-huh.
find it. Like if you're
Sure.
gonna go looking for it, you're gonna find it. So do
Right.
yourselves a favor. Don't look for it.
Yeah. I agree with all
Back to the producing side. Here I go.
that. I agree with that all 100%. But here's the thing. When her dread is high enough, even though you have a boundary, let's say, which is we don't look through each other's phones in secret. So my boundary in my LTR is this: we don't look through each other's phones in secret. I got nothing to hide. I don't care if you go through my phone. You shouldn't care if I go through yours. But if I have a suspicion, we need to sit down. I'm going to tell you about my suspicion and I'm going to look at your phone right in front of you. That way, I have to be accountable for the reasons why I'm looking. I can't sit here and dig in secret and try to spy on my partner because that's divisive. And that puts me at odds, or if she's doing it to me, it puts us at odds against each other. It's an assumption that she is not telling me the truth. And therefore, I need to sneak around to try to find the truth versus let's put everything on the table and have this discussion right here. And if it's to a point, and on my course that's now closed and it's really in the mastermind group, if a guy needs this material on boundary setting and not and I talk about the ladder, the cheating ladder, which because cheating doesn't happen in like, oh, I accidentally fell on some pussy or she accidentally fell on some dick. Like cheating is stages. Do you know what I mean? That puts somebody is into being susceptible for making that decision. And there's usually about 5 stages that happen before the actual physical act happens. And so she's got a lot of decision points, or if you're on the end of it, you have a lot of decision points that happen before it's sleeping with somebody. And so with that, bringing up something, especially before a concern, before you get to that point or before she's at that point, and wanting to look at conversations, there's a consequence there because you're saying I don't effectively you're saying I don't trust you as my partner right now. So you have to make sure that she's doing things that demonstrate that you don't trust her. Where you say, listen, A, B, and C is going on and it doesn't look good and I want to trust you, but right now my trust is, in question. And so instead of me not trusting you or worrying about this, I want to trust but verify, and I want to look at some things. You know what I mean? And have her give you an explanation too, right there. Now, there's a lot of nuance here. Like I can detect when my partner's lying. So, that's a skill set that we develop in a mastermind group. You know what I mean? That's some videos I've done on detecting someone not telling the truth. So these are important skills. It's part of your game. You know what I mean? So like I don't need to do anything in secret. I know if she's doing something messed up, but I always reserve the right to look. And she reserves the right to look too and to bring it up. Not to do it in secret, but to do that. And then we can have that conversation because anxiety stimulates more anxiety. Anxiety isn't coming from truth, it's coming from a fear, and it looks to have that information bias onto itself. And so if she's in secret doing it, she's looking to stimulate more anxiety. She may have found nothing, but then finds a random tweet that is a little off color, or she finds a random exchange that where nothing happens, and in her mind she blows it up, and then that's not a healthy
Oh,
framework in a relationship. So
I
this is
had that once. That was absolutely terrible. So yeah, this really wasn't fun. So I had a girlfriend, and she stayed over. But a couple of days before that, I found an old schoolmate of mine, and I looked at his Facebook, and I saw, oh, his sister's got Facebook as well, and his sister had all these scantily dressed photos on her Facebook.
sounds good.
So uh,
I'm just kidding.
it was okay, but
6. No.
yeah, more of a
Yeah.
5. But I
Oh,
went to
fuck.
the bathroom, and I came back, and all of a sudden, my girlfriend's in the corner like this. I'm like, honey, what's wrong? It's like, who do, what are you looking for on your computer? Like, what are you talking about? And then she asked who the name of that sister was. I'm like, that's the sister of a guy who went to school with me. Well, what are those pictures about? I'm like, those were on her Facebook, and I scrolled through them to see what they were about. Well, why would you scroll through something like that? I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? So, and this was way before I knew anything about the red pill. So it turned out into like a 2-hour argument, which could have just ended within 5 minutes
Yeah.
if I had known better. But instead of her just asking me, like, hey, can I search or can I see your web history or whatever, I would have had way less issue with that than
Yeah.
me going to the bathroom, coming to a girl who's completely shell shocked because she looked at who I visit on Facebook.
Yep. And then had a whole interpretation on that based on bullshit and things in her own head. And by the way, guys who are listening here, you're not immune to this. You will do the same thing. You will go through her shit and interpret things in the worst possible way, because the reason for you going through it is because you're anxious or fearful of something going on, or suspicious even, right? But that suspicion, which could be a rightful suspicion, breeds anxiety and fear. And when you make that decision to do it in secret, it's coming from a place of anxiety and fear. And so you're going to be looking for things to get upset about without realizing you do that, and you're going to interpret everything in the worst possible way. And it's like this guy in this little vignette not letting her go to concerts because he thinks he's going to sleep with all the band members, right? Maybe, but maybe not, right? That's probably being interpreted in like the worst way and coming from a place of fear. You can't have frame if you're coming from a place of fear. And so when you do it in front of her, when you say, hey, look, there's been a lot of going on, like banter going on with, Kevin from sales. I understand you work with him and all that stuff, but our boundaries, and your behavior's been different, and I want to trust you. But right now I got questions. And so I want you to tell me more about that. But while you're telling me, I'm going to look through your phone. I want to see what you got
Is
on your
he
timeline.
bigger than me?
Right. Is he bigger than me? Right. And then that's it. And then you take her phone and you look through it. You're not coming from a place
And
of
then you
fear. You're
compare.
saying, yeah, yeah. And then you look at your picture, and then you hold yours up to his. Scale. The picture's only this big, so I'm obviously huge.
And
Then
then you're
nothing
gonna
to worry
find
about.
out you have a lot to worry about, and well, everything gets
Yeah,
worse.
exactly. Then it just gets worse. But yeah, so I mean, that's a much stronger framework to have. And by having that conversation and doing it in front of her, that becomes a bit of a check to your, a balance and check for you. So you're not just scrolling into eternity looking for any offense. Do you know what I mean? And
Mm.
so that's, a possible solution there if you have it. And it's like, yeah, and I get that if you feel like you have to go through your girl's phone, you've kind of lost frame to begin with, blah blah blah. I understand all that stuff. But that being said, though, is when a guy kicks in and decides to, I mean, decides to start executing proper game in this relationship, we can't determine when that's going to be because most guys are unaware. We're all unaware until we become aware. And a lot of times we become aware when we're already down the rabbit hole into mistakes. And so
Oh,
you have
and
to
then
now respond to that. You can't just
yeah,
like go, I should have done this earlier. Like, oh, I lost frame to begin with. Okay, well, how do we get that back now, right? How do we build trust? So, yeah,
exactly. And that is a bit of the paradoxical thing here. Uh, you know this. The concept of breaking up with your wife is
yeah,
kind of the only option you have here.
yeah. If you're at that
Because,
point, that's where you need to do that mentally for sure.
yeah, mentally breaking up with your wife and not actual divorce or whatever. But what that means is that everything you now do does not consider her, and not in a secrecy manner, but like you lift for you, you start eating healthy for you, saving up money, budgeting for you, etc., going out more for you, being more social for you, etc. And then one of two things can happen: either she like gets into your frame, or and this is like the thing that makes guys scared to do this, she's too far gone.
Right.
But
You
the
got to be
best
okay with
way,
that.
you got to be okay with that. You got to have that
That's the
outcome
breaking up part.
independence,
Mhm.
because otherwise you're gonna, everything you do is gonna be because of to win her back, which is
Yeah.
absolutely not the point of all of this. The
No.
whole point
And
of
it,
inner game is not because of her, but because of you, which eventually will or will not make her more attractive to you again. But you have to
right.
be at peace with the fact that that might not happen.
Yeah. And that's such an important framework. And the breaking up with her mentally is really, even if it's not even so much a behavior change a lot of times for guys, although sometimes it is, it's really just a mental framework that gets them out of this place of anxiety and scarcity and puts them in a place of, if it ends, I'm going to be okay. Right.
Outcome
Like
independence.
I'm going to be all right if this is over with because that you're going to do everything that is reasonable to try to, keep your relationship together. But if meaning that if it does go away, it's not your fault and you need to then let it go away. You know, Clinging to something that is broken already and that she's determined to break is just going to, put you in a prolonged period of being in a bad relationship and, further your pain, or it's just going to, you know what I mean, and end in, of course, a breakup to begin with. So that's generally, really, really good advice. But, this thing about the phone, it's just interesting. And when here's my other to come full circle though, it's like, although that's the boundary, just like you didn't have this thing where she could just look through your phone anytime she wanted to in that example you gave, but you went to the bathroom and what'd she do? Right? Girls are going to do this. Like you have to assume that girls are little spies, right? Because they're at an instinct level, they're not in a position of power. They're generally not in a position of power in their relationships like that. If they are, that's not where they want to be anyways. And they're instinctually wired to not have the frame or the power, not supposed to anyway. So they will divert to manipulation and to spying and to doing things in secrecy when they have insecurities because they're trying to calm those insecurities down. And you could have this boundary like we don't look through our phones in secret, we do it in front of each other so we can have a talk about things and be in a healthy relationship. You could have that boundary, but be prepared for her to break it, which is why not when she breaks it, you execute consequences, right? It's not like you put up with that. But that being said, though, you know, if she does, and you're having a thread text conversation with her brother involved and all these people, and you're talking about her, it's like that's not a good thing because women are really concerned. It's a natural, it's instinct for them to be concerned about being a bad chimpanzee, I call it, looking bad in front of other people. And so if she thinks you're just having like all these conversations with everyone in your circle about her anytime, you think she's a bad chimp, you know what I mean? She's gonna lose. That's gonna actually be a major threat, a feeling of threat to her on an existential level. She's gonna get very upset with that, more upset than you might. Like, I don't care as much. I know she's gonna talk shit to all of her girlfriends sometimes. Then she's gonna even it out with some good things to say. It's whatever, right? I do expect some discretion. Enforce that as a boundary, but I know there's going to be some conversations. I'm less bothered by that because I don't give a fuck what her friends think about me. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? To a degree, but like she cares a lot more about that, generally speaking, than you do as a man. And so if you're having like, you think it's just a strategy discussion in, let's say, a forum, like even my mastermind forum or something like that, she could see that and then go and have a meltdown about it. Right now, again, your frame is impeccable here. And so that's where you're like, that if you're going to dig for a problem, you're going to find a problem. And that's the way men handle things. And I'm sorry that, you know, I don't go around in all of our social circles and have these conversations, but that's a private group or a private conversation with my friend Jack that I'm having because of problems you created. And now you're finding those things because you're breaking my trust and going behind my back. So I'll take my phone back and I don't want to talk to you for a little bit because I'm really not happy with you right now. And I'm not sure what we're going to do about this. Take a few days off and figure out how you're going to enforce that boundary. But she doesn't get to now be mad and upset. I mean, she can be, but she can do it in the corner by herself now because she's the one who's breaking all kinds of boundaries for you. And that's just how you have to treat it. You know what I mean? In these situations. But
Well,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. The only problem you might be facing is when you live together, but that's when you get the silent treatment. Like women love giving guys the silent treatment, but they absolutely hate when they receive it. But that is one of the most powerful tools you have. And you can make a game out of it even. And maybe that's me just being malicious every now and then. But I like doing those things at a certain point. It's called at least what was the name again? I like to call it manufactured drama because like women love drama. Women love drama and attention is the coin of the realm. And the trick there is be her manufacturer of drama. So she doesn't even have to like cross a boundary or whatever to do that for you. Just out of nowhere, give her the silent treatment or something. And she'll go mad and want your attention. Like, what did I do? Don't you know? And just play with it a bit. But this is what I mean with the phone as well. Like, she's going to look for problems. You, as a guy, have the opportunity there to absolutely own it. Like, what kind of dirt do you think you'll find?
Yeah.
And then just watch that hamster spin. Like, well, my coworker? Oh, you mean that one with the tight miniskirt that I told you about? What would I want to do with her?
Right.
That I couldn't possibly do with you, kind of thing.
Right.
What kind of imagination did you have back there? Just flip the script on it. Use the anxiety she has at that moment in your advantage, and it not in a cruel manner or whatever, but to control the situation in a positive manner. Is what I mean. Because you can either argue with her about it, like, why don't you trust me, or blah, 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 or you can see it for what it is. She is so invested in you that she starts worrying about you going off with somebody else.
Right. How's my mic, Glenn? Sorry. Is it better? He's like...
turn it up a little bit more. Turn it up. We need a little bit more. Like, and Jack, can you turn yourself down a little bit? Because you are coming in hot.
Okay, let's...
How's that? Does that sound better?
Yeah, that sounds good on my end. That sounds good on my end.
Is this better?
Jack, let me go ahead and give you a mic check real quick one more time.
Is this better? Check. 1, 2.
Yep,
one,
yep,
2.
you're good. You're good.
Middle of the show mic check. Middle of the show mic
check. We had a glitch. We had a little computer glitch earlier, so that's why I'm checking. All right, back to it.
All right, we're gonna do a freestyle battle now. No, I'm just kidding. But
just so you guys know, everybody that likes the stream, Jack has to do a push-up for every like. So right now we're only at 18 likes. So get this guy a good workout, please. All right, get it. You see those arms? You see that chest? He needs some push-ups in his life. For every like,
Oh, ow,
it's a push-up.
ow. That's just bad lighting, sir. Don't you see my Twitter?
It's nothing but love for you, Jack. Nothing but love. Nothing but love.
He's got abs of you can wash clothes on them abs though, so he's doing pretty good.
I am actually disappointed that tweet did not get more interaction. I'm actually disappointed about that. Yeah, I mean, everybody was shitting on Amaranth for her Me or a PS5, but what I noticed was that we're all unattractive guys doing that. Like, oh, you're made of plastic and blah blah blah. And then I just post a shirtless photo, like, hey, Me or PS5, am I doing it right? It's like, look, if you're gonna complain about a woman grabbing attention, at least be a fuckable guy, you know? Like,
yes,
yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, at least be attractive.
At least look good with your shirt off, right? If you're gonna some girl who's trying to show her body around.
Yeah, and here I was hoping I'd get all kinds of simps in my inbox, but nope, no one. A lot of guys calling me gay though, but hey, what are you gonna do?
That's
what are you gonna do?
Secretly in love, you know. But manufactured indignation. So I have a take on that though. That's because I've heard that a bunch, and I'm not in agreement with a lot of people who like to do that, but the way that they present it. But I'll explain how I think that it's here's how I kind of work it. What I think, well, I know that no matter what, indignation is going to happen when her desire's up anyway. Like, it's only a matter of time before there's some reason she's going to have some sort of fight, right? And it's not going to necessarily be a big toxic fight, but when the desire is there, that means that she sees you as better than she is in a genetic mating sense, not better in the eyes of the Lord Jesus, or better, you know what I mean? Better at, something that she's good at and you're not good at, or something, right? But I mean, like, better in terms of a genetic mating option. If she has that a high desire for you, that's what is going to be there. Therefore, she's going to have natural points where she has insecurities and dread and fears of losing you, or fears of not having enough power in the relationship and then not having her needs met, which means she's going to bring up some reason to be mad or upset. It's just natural. That's what's going to happen. And so what I recommend, guys, is that they get the skill set of, like, being able to notice when that's about to occur, and then handle that with a level of outcome independence and frame where it comes and goes like that. It's just over with. The idea of manufactured indignation is that I'm going to preempt it. I know she's going to get this dread, so I'm going to sort of create a small fight that doesn't matter, and then we'll overcome it, and then it'll be fine. But I think that a lot of guys can execute that poorly. And I know though that I'm not gonna. I mean, I've never had a case where I didn't have to execute a boundary at some point, or in a consequence. I've never had a case where there wasn't going to be something, because if that were the case, I would actually wonder about that desire component. You know what I mean? And so, like, and here's the other part of it too, like the going off, like, I'm going to go do my own thing sort of thing. That happens to me naturally all the time because I'm got more shit to accomplish in life than what I have time for. So, like, like this morning with my chick, I drove my son to school. I did a little bit of work. I popped in, gave her a little kiss, all this stuff. And we're not going to be doing a lot of things that we like to do in the middle of the day, fill in the blank, because I got a show, and then I got a consult after the show, and then I got a meeting over the phone, and then my son comes home from school. Like, I got at least a 4.5, 5 hour block of me being busy. And so, like, she's, there, and so now she's going, crap, like, I'm really horny and I wish that I got to wait 5 hours for this dude, right? And I'm like, yeah, like, I guess, that sucks for me too, right? That happens naturally when you're accomplishing shit. And so that natural, push pull and that stuff should happen if a guy's on, like, chasing excellence and trying to achieve more in his own life than what he actually has time for, right? If he's doing that, you know what I mean? it's like we can live and cohabitate, and I'm in my office, I'm at the gym, I'm on a call, I'm smoking a cigar and walking the dog because I get my daily walks in. I'm doing my self-care. There's so many things that I do that doesn't involve her. And then she just has to be in my absence. It's like it's a natural process throughout the day. Then by the time we're together again, then it's like we both cherish that time because of how busy I am, right? And that's just part of being like a high value guy is that you're doing so many things for you because that's what you do, and that means that you're not going to be 247 with your chick, even if she lives with you. I mean, there's sometimes like on a lazy Sunday where hey, it's just the whole day, her and I, or something like that, or even a long weekend on a vacation situation. But eventually you're back at chasing your goals and the things you want to accomplish, and that doesn't involve her. And so a combination of chasing goals and being able to preempt or predict based on her overall sort of behavior, where she's going to something, when that fight is going to happen, and being able to handle it with frame and outcome independence, because that's what creating that indignation is for. It's for a guy who goes, well, I'm going to create this and then I'm going to handle it this way with this outcome independent. He knows how he's going to handle it on the back end too. And then it resolves itself quick. But again, a lot of times she can see then you as the guy as being because guys will execute that the wrong way, as my experience. It's not that it's the worst thing ever to do. It's just that guys do it wrong. And so what ends up happening is she sees him as a guy who's a drama queen, or she sees him as a guy who's always bringing up the problem and this, and so you lose that. You don't even have to do it. If you're really good at predicting her behavior because you know her patterns and you have really good game, like you'll know when the fight's coming.
I mean, but some women are just great at shit talking.
Mm-hmm.
Some women are just, that's like WWE shit, and you got to be able to handle that, man. You got to be able to handle that. But some guys just fold. Like, why did you say that to me? Don't you love me? It's like, there she was hoping for a fight, and here you are, like in tears and glass of wine, and
frame lost, right?
Yep,
Shit
exactly.
test failed. Well, we'll move on though to the topic at hand here, because we'll just talk all day about everything, because we like to have fun on the internet, and bullshit about this stuff is good. But
how about we do a super chat break? You want to do some super chats?
Yeah.
Super chats? All right, cool.
Let's do it.
All right, cool. We got one super chat so far. All right, and that was from
Kenneth Rockstar.
Kenneth Rocker Star. He goes, whew, thought I got kicked, LOL. Recently nuked my only plate, and then on the last week's video, I learned about love bombing. What's your opinion? Risk one-itis with the narcissist or nuke the only plate?
Nuke.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Then we got Charlie Waffles. Does Paul have dirt on Jack? Is that why he's in this episode?
No.
And
weird.
And
then we have dirt on each other because we know each other, like friend dirt, right? But no, there's no dirt.
I was strong armed into this conversation. It's like, oh no, Paul, please don't have me on. Well, if you don't want to come on my show, I'm gonna leak all your dirt. It's like, oh no, now I have to.
And then we got one from Fisherman. Has Paul ever sat in a Lincoln chair? In the Lincoln chair? I don't know if he could reach the Lincoln chair because
What's
like
the Lincoln chair. Like sat on like where? Like I don't even like in the monument.
I don't know. That's what I was thinking about. I was like, Paul's not that
tall.
No,
the Lincoln chair is the one chair that every hotel room has for the husband to observe.
The waiting chair.
Yes.
I've handcuffed girls to that chair. Does that count? Mm-hmm.
That works for me. It's like,
with or without the husband in it.
And then we have Zach Moore.
She's got to wait her turn. You know what I'm saying?
Zach Moore asks, do you believe in working on yourself out of spite, or is that a bad idea in the long run?
bad
It's
idea.
a really good question. So, yeah, generally, sustainably, it's a bad idea. However, in the beginning, whatever gets you to doing the behavior is okay. You just have to understand though that that's not sustainable. Like if in the beginning you're like, this bitch hurt my feelings and I'm angry at everything how it went down and I'm going to make myself better just to show her that I'm the better choice and what she missed out on. If that gets you in the beginning started on working on yourself and breaking that attachment, hey, I'm not going to say that's necessarily bad, but it's not sustainable for the long term because she becomes the mental point of origin now for everything you end up doing in the future. So the sooner you can, if that gets you started, cool, but you need to work on breaking that attachment and really ingraining in yourself that her opinion of your value is meaningless. And when you can really understand, that it's everything she thinks and says about you is bullshit because it's clouded by her own perceptions and subjective ideas. When you really, and that's going to be all negative now because you've broken up or whatever, right? You've gotten that rejection. So when you really internalize that her opinions are bullshit when it comes to you and they don't matter, and what matters is objectively a lot of other data points that don't involve her, then that puts you in a stronger position, and so you have doing something to spite her is because you're internally injured, like psychologically injured by the rejection because she's demonstrating that you're not good enough and that injures you psychologically. A stronger position is to have that opinion and rejection have no influence on your psychology whatsoever because you've really internalized that her opinion doesn't matter. And so that's where you want to get to. Where you start is just where you start. It's like an alcoholic, it's like or a drug addict. It's like maybe they're only quitting because they they don't want to go back to jail. Like maybe they're only stopping because they just got caught with something and they have a parole officer to report to, and that they're not that motivated on their own. Or maybe their spouse said, if you do it one more time, I'm going to leave you, and they're like, shit, all right, even though I think I should be able to, I still want to drink still, I'm going to do it for that reason. That's not a good sustainable reason, but it's a start, right? But then as they go through the process of breaking the attachment to that substance, they learn a higher reasons for doing things. I really recommend too, guys, like you if you struggle with breakups and attachments, to study and look at addictions. All right. This is one thing I've done a little bit for myself just because of there is an addiction component with your associating that person with a neurochemical oxytocin response and all those addicting neurochemicals that happen very much like gambling, right? There's no substance involved, but that activity or that person is stimulating these responses in your body, and those responses are why you will do crazy things, rationalize bad behavior, do the wrong things, have this torn apart feeling of loss, all these things that happen, right? Like, and so when you approach it almost like an addict approaches getting rid of a substance, there's obvious nuances there, but that kind of approach is very helpful, right? And so how you start, if today to start that, to stop obsessing over her and to start working on yourself, you have to today go, I'm going to show her I'm better. Good. Okay. But next week or next month, you need to have that changed now. When you go through the process of making yourself better, you need to transform that into doing it for you and not to show her anything. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, that's a good question. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think?
I mean, if thinking the moon is made out of cheese gets you in the gym 3 times a week, the moon is
Right.
made out of cheese. The thing with spite is she doesn't care about you.
Is right.
That's the only thing where I'm like, spite is just a waste of time because she doesn't care. She's moved on. She's been with other dick.
That's
Now,
right.
you can sit there and say, well, I'm going to work out and going to show her. She's not even paying attention to you.
Right.
What you need to do it for is you. I get it. You're angry. So maybe because of the anger, where it's like, you know what? I'm just going to be a better guy than she ever had. Sure. But
Is and you know the paradox is, and I'm sure you've experienced this in your life with different girls and plates. The paradox is when you do have move on in your head and you're doing your improvement for you, if she's going to come back around, which statistically it's like a little over 50% of the time they do. Um, I know in my own life it's like a lot more than that where they do circle back around. When they
I don't know,
circle
man.
back,
I've never dated before. What are girls?
yeah, I don't even know either. Yeah,
No, I know what you mean.
but you know that when it tends to be after you've broken that attachment. It's like they sense and feel that outcome independence. It's almost in a way, you know, that they're very women are naturally more socially perceptive than men are. And when they see that you're not qualifying to her and the things that you're doing have nothing to do with her, and she's done rationalizing that it is, that's when that fear of missing out happens. That's when she sees you as different if she's going to. And that's when she does turn around, and if she's going to have regrets, have them, or hit you up and wonder what's going on. That's when all those things happen, but it doesn't happen because you are trying to change just to show her. It's like they pick up on that shit and they still think you're a loser. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Like
like most of the time.
he's still doing everything for me, kind
Yeah.
of thing.
I
Right.
got one thing to say here. Look, if
Yeah.
you're gonna go to the gym to work out to make her jealous, make sure you bang her best friend, her sister, or her mom. Get her mom first. The mom is the best. All right,
Mom game.
I'm out.
Mom game. Mom game. Glenn Lawrence, ladies and gentlemen. So now, after you get her mom and then move on, and now you're gonna get new girls. Let's talk about trying to save women. You said an interesting comment to me. It was more in private, but this is like probably the worst thing guys do, like the biggest thing guys do to get themselves in trouble. So why don't you expand on that a bit?
Well, my point of view was a bit different than what you wanted to talk about. Although you do have a good point, we'll get there. But I was being facetious on Twitter, as I usually do. And I saw Tradco on Twitter complaining about the women again, where it's like, oh, women are not virtuous these days, and a woman with tattoo you should never touch, and blowjobs are evil, and whatever they were thinking about this time. So I looked up the most damaged looking emo chick I could find. She was hot, by the way. In all honesty, not gonna lie. Hot emo chick. And I post that on Twitter. And I'm like, dude, this is why I say red flags are a green light. Western women, what's preventing you from looking like this? And dudes jumped on it where it was like, any woman like this is no valuable option for a virtuous man. And all the things. And this is not a woman. Yeah, all that bullshit. Like, this is not a woman of God and whatever. And I'm like, that's the point.
Yeah.
This is for fun.
It's like, tell me you're not getting laid without saying you're not getting laid.
Exactly. Like, these are the girls you have for fun. You don't need to marry them. You don't need to wife them up. She doesn't need to marry your kids. You don't have to take it to church. But you can have your goddamn fun with it. The year of wood, as Rob would call it. And these guys just look at that and like, I wouldn't do that. Like, I have standards. It's like, dude, you're stepping on your own dick is what you're doing.
Sure.
Now, the problem is, what does come to mind, and this is more what you wanted to talk about, is that guys who go for the fun girls with the piercings and the tattoos and the colored hair and things like that, they get emotionally invested. They want her to be the mom of her kids. They want to take
Yes.
church, and they can think, you know what? She might not have a dad. She might have had a triple-digit notch-down. She may have a drug addiction, multiple DUIs, and student debt you can buy off the national treasure with. I'm going to save her. It's like, no. You missed the point. You missed the point, my friend. That was not the purpose of this.
Well, and this is, yeah, because they just, when you lack that abundance, they start getting laid with a hot girl with an arm sleeve and purple hair who,
Do you happen
is
to know one? You're asking for a friend.
they're everywhere, man. Hell,
Anyone in the chat?
that's the uniform here in the Detroit area if you want to come out. But
Oh, no, my friend, not me. No.
yeah. So your friend, yeah, and just make sure they have if they any type of accent that indicates they're not from the Midwest works. They'll just pull them. But but yeah, so it's because guys when they have that lack of abundance, right, and more of a scarcity, they don't realize the level of scarcity they're at even with sexual experience, and then they meet a girl who's sexually experienced, a little crazy in bed maybe, and she's wearing the uniform to prove it, and they get all of those attached feelings that happen when sex can happen to a guy who doesn't have abundance, right, and doesn't
Who
have
is a
that
man of
experience.
virtue?
Right, a man of virtue. And then it's like he's now basically taking a morality and putting it around his desires and wants, right? It's like if he had morality, that kind of morality to begin with, he wouldn't be fucking tattoo sleeve BPD purple hair girl to begin with. It's if he had the morality that he's supposing to say that he has. No, instead, he wants to bang that girl, and now he is going to justify the reasons why afterwards because he knows it's a bad idea, and he's going to hope that he can just keep her and save her and make her something that she is not and doesn't even want to be. And that's what you see.
And that is perfectly fine. We have girls like that. They don't have to be anything else.
Well, they don't, and I think it boils down to. It's not to say that every girl with purple hair and tattoo sleeve is not going to be somebody who could be a good relationship partner, but they are wearing the uniform, and so what it boils down to is like, how are they going to show up today, right? How are they? They have to prove that they're relationship material through their behavior and who they are. You're not going to make them relationship material. You know what I mean? That's not the idea. You have your frame that's yours, and prior to the commitment or any sort of committed relationship, she has to qualify to enter that relationship frame that you're creating. That's the way you should think about it.
Well, yes, and in my humble opinion, you shouldn't even worry about the relationship because she'll bring it up.
Well, exactly. But I mean, when she does bring it up and she doesn't qualify, you should have that situation where you have that like, listen, I really like you. I like hanging out with you, but I don't do relationships with girls who show their butthole on Instagram every, 3 times a week, for example. Like there's a lot of things that you do that isn't going to be okay with me in a relationship. And, I'm not, if you want to get mad at me and walk away from this right now because of that, that's your choice. Or I can mention what those are and we can give it a few months.
You'd be surprised what girls will stop doing when they're really into you. I've had a girlfriend once who
100%.
went swimming. She went swimming with her family, and her sister took a photo of her sitting by the side of the pool from her backside. She wanted a photo like that, and she texted me like, "Hey, I really like this photo. Are you okay if I put this on? Are you okay if I post this on Instagram? Is this not too much?" Kind of thing.
That's a fair thing to do.
And I never even had that conversation with her.
Right.
Just out of her level of interest, she presented it herself. Where it's like, no, I need to keep him in mind. His opinion matters most.
Yeah.
I can't even remember what I said. I think I let it slide where it's like, yeah, if you want to post that, go ahead. I didn't think much of it back then. Where it's like, oh yeah, go. But maybe that's why she's my ex. Who knows? I was cucked via Instagram. No.
You sat in the Lincoln chairs
and via Instagram. Like Instagram has a special page to link.
The Lincoln chair on Instagram. Well, but it's that's good. Like, see, these are the green flags, and these are the good things that she will do if she's willing to qualify for that toward you. She should do that. It's not, women are promoting. There are a lot of women out there promoting this idea that doing anything to demonstrate that you're a good relationship partner to a guy is somehow this wrong or bad thing, or like misogynistly, misogynist thing. And that's absolute, bullshit, right? I mean, there's things that there's things that you're going to do as a guy when you enter into a relationship that's going to be different than when were single. You know what I mean? It just, there should be. Otherwise, why, there is not really much of a relationship there. There's certain, even if it's just a boundary discussion, even if a guy's in a, you know, polygamous style relationship, for example, there's still a boundary discussion about that. You know what I mean? That you're not having with someone you're casual with. There's still, a level of planning together now because this person is in your life versus someone who comes and goes as you or they please.
And you'll
So,
you'll find out that the more you get into the situation, the less things like tattoos and purpled hair really matter.
right. Yeah.
Okay, like all snakes are poisonous, whatever, all guns are loaded. Treat them like that. But you'll find that in the end, it really is only about behavior and not
Yeah.
per se all that exterior. It can give
Right.
you a bit of an idea of what you're dealing with, but 9 times out of 10, well, maybe a bit, 8 times out of 10, you'll find it doesn't even matter all that much. Unless there's one thing, though, the hill I will die on is that hideous, ugly nose ring. That thing here.
I
That,
saw
that
that.
is the one red flag where even I'm like, nah, nah, man, don't. Ain't
Yeah.
worth it.
Well, and every guy needs to decide what it is that they're comfortable with and what they're not comfortable with. And then really it's about what certain red flags are red flags because of what is behind the behavior, not so much the behavior of itself. It's not that the tattoo itself is bad, right? But it's what is behind her inking herself up that way that you have to look into and ask questions about. I'll give a great example. There's this friend of a friend. I have this friend. She's really cool. And she's tatted up and friends with her and her husband, or her guy, whatever. I don't know if they're officially married or not, but I mean, they're cool, whatever. They might as well be. Anyway, and she used to be a photographer for models. And there was this one model that was a friend of hers who, you know, by modeling standards is very beautiful, but she's was a BPD crazy person. Okay. And she had all of the opportunities in the modeling industry to go and legitimately make, six figures plus a year as a conventional model. She chose instead to continuously body modify and ink herself up. Now, the girl was so at least attractive for photography. I don't I have a mixed feelings about her level of attractiveness. Maybe it's my aversion to toxic women, but it's like, but the industry felt like she was so attractive enough. She ended up making a decent living as an alternative model for, was the Suicide Girl for a little while.
Mm.
Did like, made, as an alternative tattoo model, right? Like as somebody who models with that look, and then got opportunities for doing different types of things, not sex work per se, but like entertainment stuff, like dancing and shows and things like that, and Vegas, and like had these opportunities, all of which she blew because she's a toxic person, right? The tattoos represent her really, uh, not I want to say body modify, but the negative part of body modification, just destroying essentially her look and her body because she had such a deep feeling of, you know, hatred towards herself, as a lot of BPD
Mm.
women do. And that's what that represented. It represented just this deep, you know, discontent with herself, that she would ink that herself up, ruining opportunities, because even as an alternative model, she would have been more successful as a conventional model of financially, but yet she didn't. She blew those opportunities because she could not see herself as one of those girls because of how toxic she is on the inside. And that's what
Mm.
those, the neck and chest piece she has and all this stuff, that's what those things represent. And now you get in a relationship with that. And granted, she's more of an extreme case. Guys will jump into bed with that because she's an attractive girl, and then she has this, that BPD way of acting where she's the victim of everything, that really gets
Mm.
certain dudes. You know what I mean? Like, guys are like, oh, they're like moths to flame.
Yeah,
You
it's
know
like
what I mean?
Captain
Like,
Save-A-Ho.
oh, that, yeah, yeah, guys like who are attracted to BPD women, this show is for you. Like, they're the ones who are really trying to save these girls, right? And then they get into it with this chick, and she just takes them for their money, takes them for their whatever they got, and leaves them in the dark. You know what I mean? And she's been cycling through different circles of people doing that for, you know, gosh, she's got to be in her, at least her 30s now, late 30s. And so she's running out of steam. And of course, now she runs out of steam, where'd she go? Take a guess where she goes when the girl runs out of options, that does this, runs out of steam. Where it is, where do you think she looks for salvation, right?
Jesus, Jesus.
There it is.
Oh,
There it is.
did you see that? Like, normally I stay away from the red meat, but did you see that Eliza Blue chick who
Yeah,
who
I was going to do
all
a
of a
little
sudden
segment on that.
today, I know Jesus loves me. Pivot, pivot, pivot
Yeah,
harder. It's like
yeah.
Jesus. Well, literally, by the way. But all of a sudden she goes, "Oh, I know Jesus loves me." It's like, well, did you love him when you got trafficked? Because apparently he
There's a
didn't love
difference
you.
between Jesus. There's a difference between Jesus and Jesus. Okay, I don't think she knows the difference.
Apparently she doesn't. I think she met him in the desert when she was twerking or something. It's like
Jesus and the 12 apostles. It's actually a gang.
Jorge and
It's
geez,
Jesus is
Alejandro.
MS-13 chapter. So well, the it's just this, yeah, well, she, and so the girl I'm mentioning is it's funny because she went into the poor me, I was trafficked angle, right, too.
Mm,
And she wasn't. Like, her friends at the time that I know, like, personally, are like, dude, she didn't have to do, she was voluntarily escorting and working at strip clubs and making money. She didn't need to do any of that. Like, there was no one making her do it. She wanted to do it because that's who she is. And then she turns around and uses that like some creepy anonymous figure was trafficking her, and then she's going to get, of course, all the attention from guys who are, we'll just say it, blue pilled, you know what I'm saying, without a better term for it, and they want to save these girls, you know. And I'm talking to you, Elon Musk, who's my favorite guy right now, my favorite billionaire. Love him, love you to death, bro, but you need to get out, you need to book a private consult. Let's not tell anybody. Okay, be like some of my other, I've had some celebrity friends book a consult, you know, that are not telling anybody about it. It's okay, and work through your shit. But you know, that's because these guys, they're attracted to, you know, women who don't want to be saved, and it's a deficiency within themselves is what it boils down to. They
women who
don't.
need saving but don't want to be saved, and it
They
usually
need.
stems from a need to save mom from dad or whatever. It's like
Yeah.
dad was an asshole and mom did everything, and now I have to save every girl in the
It's
world
an
because
attachment issue is what
yeah.
it boils down to. You know what I mean? And it's it now I want to pivot just a second because I want to make sure I mention this and not forget about it.
How long are we
But
going for actually?
I don't know, 1:30 ish. I don't know,
Oh,
maybe 10 minutes more longer. Do you want to?
yeah, sure.
Give it that. All right, cool. We got one more. We got this one more segment, and we're just gonna do a little segment on the funny Twitter thing. But you stay, as long as I know I have a hard appointment at 2 p.m. EST, so I got to be definitely off way before that, but at least 15 minutes before. But anyway, yeah, I was gonna say, what was I gonna say? I forgot it was. Oh yeah. So, all right, this is an important thing though too. It doesn't mean that you're looking for the perfect girl either, right? You're looking for a girl who here's my take on what guys need to look for. The number one thing is genuine desire for sure, which is why I started off this Apex Inner Games, regular show with genuine desire because so many guys have been asking about it. That's the first and foremost. Without it, it doesn't matter if she's a good girl, bad girl, whatever. If she doesn't have that genuine desire, and I define what that is in two lengthy ass videos, go watch them. It's not going to work out, right? Now, that being said, the other part is capability. Can she be capable of being the kind of partner you would want? And that's where things get tricky because that the other side of it is if she's not in genuine desire, or she isn't, let's say she has genuine desire, she sees you as the best guy she could possibly want to be with, but she's not capable of being the person that you would want, right? Then doesn't matter because she'll never be the person that will be enough for you. And once you get her, eventually it's going to be either you discarding her or her disqualifying herself because she never feels like she's enough for you. And that's a tragic thing to have happen. And this could be not just things like, let's say, I'm in a relationship with a fat girl and I really want her to be a skinny girl or something like that. She can take, personal training. Physical characteristics are actually
I
more
have a spot left.
yeah. She could call Jack, be a female client of Jack's, but it's not just that kind of thing. It's more than that. Like if she has, some attachment or psychological tendencies that she's ingrained since she was younger, and she's unaware of them, and she's not able to become aware of them no matter how many ways that it gets illustrated to her, then she's not demonstrating a capability of changing or being a person for you. And then that's when you need to not continue in that relationship because it'll end in a disaster. How do you know that? You know that based on your boundaries. When you set boundaries and she crosses them, and then you have these conversations and consequences, and she is not seeing her problem at all, refuses to see her problem, and refuses to make any effort towards change, now you know it's time to exit. If how
What kind of conversation would you have? Because, for example, what I usually do when a girl is like really out of line, it's like, okay, see ya. It's like uh, I don't even have words about it. When something is really not to my liking, I just go, "Hey, it was fun. See ya." And I was like, "Huh? What? What
now
did I do?"
but yeah, so caveat on that though, and there's nothing wrong with doing that if that's the way how you, because that's you're generally though in the plate spinning phases with these women though.
Mhm.
Now, if you were, let's say, 8 years with the same LTR and had two kids, right? Like
Leave.
Shannon and
Just leave.
Marcus, just
No,
leave it.
don't,
Just leave it.
don't,
No,
don't.
you see what I
Well, you
mean?
can leave
It's
the house. I mean, there
right.
used to be an old saying, "Leave your gym bag at the door,"
Mhm.
which
Yeah, and
actually
that's
just meant where something like that happens, you have a place to go.
you should. Now there's consequences. Those are the consequences, but there's also the communication component, which I think that a lot of people in red pill space really fuck up. Actually, is the communication component because how do you communicate without having covert contracts, simping, deering, and doing all these other things? That's the part. You can't just like never have a conversation and always grab your gym bag. Sometimes though, you're just grabbing your gym bag, right? Because she knows what the boundary is. There isn't a discussion that needs to be had. And so there's a consequence here, but we want also that boundary crossing and not continue. And that's where a condition for an LTR beyond a plate is somebody who's capable of taking ownership and having that conversation. Now, I create a good environment for her to take ownership, meaning I don't shame her or beat her up as a bad chimpanzee, bad person, but hey, this behavior's not cool, right? Like we can't keep doing that.
You take her
And
food away, you take her water away, you lock her in solitary confinement, and she can no
she gets a
longer play with the other chimps.
she gets a timeout in the dog cage, but it's like, yeah, but it's like we can have this is where the Luca, like you probably haven't seen it, it's a little long on my channel, but this is where that Luca discussion happens, where it stands for listen, understand, and then seek clarity, and then you just have an action plan. So this prevents the daring aspect of things or the over explaining. It's like, hey, you want to go do this thing, well, tell me more about that. And that's how you start off. You want to do girls' night, with three of your girlfriends, two of them habitually cheat on their guys. I'm not really comfortable with that. So tell me about that. Tell me what you're thinking. You start there and get her to talk about it and get her to talk about why she wants to go, what's going on. She is probably not self aware. Women become self aware by puking up words and then seeing how they feel as they come out of their mouth. And then they get a reaction from somebody else. And then they get a feeling about that reaction. And then they get some clarity. It's not that women are incapable of having logical thoughts. It's just that they process through the emotions first. And so Luca is where you give them the opportunity to do that. You're just going to listen and ask good questions. A lot of times she'll create the boundary for you just from listening and understanding. You know what I mean? She'll go, the more I think about it, it's really kind of stupid. And I don't really want to deal with drunk Becky again. And then trying to make sure, Teresa doesn't go home with, that guy from MS-13. And like, I don't really, you're right. I get where you're going with this. This is stupid anyway. I'm not going. Cool, like problem solved. A lot of times, if she's a decent chick and you've done your proper vetting, she just needs awareness. And that awareness happens through you asking good questions, listening. And then the understand part of Luca is where you're looking not just at what she's saying, but what she's not saying, what you know about your particular girl and what you know about women in general. And this is, having that empathy, like trying to understand and have awareness maybe beyond a level that she even has on herself. That way you can look for what her concerns and problems are and mitigate those concerns and problems in an action plan. And so with that, you might ask some clarity questions or you just make a clarity statement. So you're saying this, you want to know that you have the freedom to have friends and I'm not trying to control you, but you do understand that Becky and Teresa are insane and whatever, right? And you understand why I would have a problem because your history with that. Okay, well, here's the action plan. And the action plan could be a no. It could be like, I'm not comfortable with you choosing to go out with those friends. I don't mind you hanging out with people, but I think we need to find better friends. Because every time you go out with them, last two times you've been blacked out drunk or something, right? And I'm not doing that. I won't be in a relationship with somebody who does that. So if you do that, that is not choosing to be in this relationship or choosing us. And we need
Mm.
to come up with better, and that's could be the action plan, could be that, serious of a boundary. But when you've given her the chance to have this sort of process of just talking and being heard, she's much more likely to comply, which is really all you want to your leadership, because women are they don't comply or they argue, they have these things because they feel like they're worried about their needs not getting met. When you make them feel heard because you genuinely listen to them and try to understand, and your clarity statement demonstrates you understand her concerns, then when you come up with an action plan, even if it's not the one she wants, she's like, okay, he understands. And a lot of times it'll be like, I'm not going to do it. I don't agree, but I see I'm not, but you know what? I'm just not going to do it. I don't want to deal with this problem in my relationship. It may start just with compliance, but once she complies and continues to comply, then she starts to rationalize and reason things out. Hey, she begins to understand, like, yeah, like I didn't really agree with it, but I understand why he doesn't want me to go out with these particular people. Then that turns into agreement later. So like the progression is compliance, understand, and agreement. Guys spend too much time explaining trying to get their girl to agree, which is qualifying to the girl and asking for permission. You just care about compliance. It's up to her to ask you questions and seek understanding. It's up to her to come up with the agreement. And when you have that framework, you maintain an alpha framework in your communication, and you don't turn it into this thing that guys are so afraid of, which is qualifying to her and basically getting her okay and permission for everything. And so that's where that L.U.C.A thing comes in. It's pretty good. Yeah, with plates, they're just, with girls you're just dating casually, you might say there's the door because it's casual, but when you start to get into it with somebody a little more, this is going to be more of a useful thing.
Hey,
No,
Paul, I got
also,
a question here for you. Got a
Mhm.
Yeah, what's
question.
up?
Better Days sent something for $9.99 twice. So make that
Thanks, homie.
more money. He goes, hey, hi lads. In a dry spell, but do approach and open, but can't get the convo going or a date. Little from the girl side, continuing the convo can be struggle, and sexualizing in the past. Got dates, but are rare. Sex opener could be look creative or about tattoos. You look like a Bond femme fatal for, but the continue is hard. And how do you sexualize? I don't know. He didn't finish the thing, but that's as much as he got.
I think what he means is like, hey, I can get dates. These are my openers, but for some odd reason, I can't get laid. I can't get them in bed. Is what I think he
So,
means.
so he can get the
So
dates.
why,
but
why
can't
didn't he
get
just
laid.
say that in the first place? That would
I
have been
don't
so
know.
much easier. Save them $8.99
He-
too.
Yeah.
He likes sending money and speak with a lot of words. I mean,
So here's what I'm gonna, not to just brush this guy off, but
hmm,
what because I that could be it for sure. I interpret it that maybe he's able to, he's not nervous about opening, but he's not getting it to go past much the open initial conversation. Maybe it's just kind of similar, but he can't get it to go to the next step either way. So he's gotten dates and he can't get it to go to the next step to the bedroom, or perhaps it's a mixture of both things, right? He's opening and he's not getting engagement in conversations and stuff like that. Well, I have a bunch of answers, but I don't want to talk forever. Jack, what do you got first? Get some Jack into this. Let's get some Jack game. What's
let
a
me
Jack solution
see.
for this guy?
He has a bright spell. He does approaching, but can't get the convo going or a date. Well, here's the thing. So you already have the opener, which is good. Then you kind of need to get her involved. You need to get her interacted. Why did you open? That's the first one. What did you open with? Rouge, this might be for the guy in question, might be a good source to read. Daybang by Rouge was a good one. And anything Troy Francis, just anything Troy Francis is just guaranteed helpful.
Good.
And
Yeah.
you go from there. Like maybe she had a shirt. This used to be my favorite opener at concerts. A shirt of a band that wasn't even playing, but you are into. Like, hey, I love your shirt. I love that X and YZ album. What's your favorite song about that? And you start talking about the band, etc. You vibe a bit about that, and it's like, hey, I really had fun. I'm going to my friends again, but I'd like to continue the conversation. What's your number? And you just pass her your phone. You go from there. Then we get to the details of how long do you wait before you text? Well, depending on where you are, I would do the next day. In all honesty, this whole 3-day rule, I don't know if that really works, but
That's out of date
just
now. Yeah.
yeah, just do the next day when you're done with what you were doing.
Right.
But then you don't want to stick to the rapport. It's like, hey, it's Jack. We met yesterday. Did you have fun? Oh, hi, Jack. You're so handsome and 6 feet tall. I'm so glad you asked my number. I had a great time.
That's the answer you always get, though.
Every time they start
Never
about the
a
6 feet tall. No, never. But all jokes
Man.
aside, you asked like, did you have fun? Yeah, I had fun. How about you? Had fun. Was great. I was wondering, when are you free to get some coffee? Or, hey, reason I'm texting you to ask when you're free to get some coffee. Texting is for logistics only. Like, she gave you her number already, so she's probably interested. But then it's up to you to get the date going. So the rapport building is for the date itself. I'm not saying be very autistic about it and not use the phone for anything else but logistics, but keep in mind, hey, the reason I'm texting her is to set a date, not that you end up endlessly texting. And then you get to the date. But to get it physical, that's hard to explain because it's body language. Like, how is she sitting? Is she leaning in? Things like that. Can you make a little bit of a remark and she bites? Or you initiate physical contact, what used to be Kino, and it can be for minor things, but like maybe she has something, or you make a joke and you put your hand somewhere, or you put your hand on hers and she doesn't remove the hand. Then you know it's okay to be physical. You build that up. And then at a certain point, you're like, want to go to my place if you're not already at your place? Or when she's like been looking at you in a certain manner, or whatever, the conversation is really vibey, you just drop it somewhere in the conversation where it's like, you're going to sit there all day, or are you going to kiss me? Kind of thing. And then she either reciprocates or she doesn't. Both cases, you have what you need. You either get the agreement or you get the rejection. With both, it's a time saver. Glenn?
Anything to add?
Yeah. All right. So from what I understand, he's trying some day game. He's doing the approach, and it's not working. Got to start from us. We got to look at us. Do I look approachable? Do I look like a homeless person, or do I look? Would I want to sleep with me? Okay.
SMV check. Okay.
Good. Is my conversation decent? Like, am I talking about something that she's interested in, or am I asking her?
Check.
You know. Okay. You know what I'm saying? All right. So if it's not me and it's not working, maybe she's having a bad day. Maybe she already got laid today. Maybe she's in a relationship, and it's not working. So,
outcome independence.
Thank you. I wonder where I learned that from.
It's good. And you guys got both. All right, go ahead, Glenn.
Once you get that going, once you realize, like, okay, so maybe it is you. Once you go through the check and you're like, oh, okay, am I having a dumb conversation? Is she's not? Is she? Am I not smelling good? Am I not looking good? Or maybe I need to get in the gym. Maybe that's the thing. A lot of the times, it's not so much the girl. It's you with not getting your approach right. Sometimes guys overthink that they are. You know how girls are delusional? Guys are delusional too. Okay, yeah. Let's be real. Yeah, exactly. There's enough guys that are delusional. Exactly. It's a reality thing. Okay, so check yourself first, and then do the approach. All right, I'm out.
And if she's not into you, it's her. It's always her. She's
exactly. It's her loss.
She's just not a woman of God, okay? If she rejects you, she's just not a woman of God. She belongs to the streets.
The streets. Well,
streets, not the streets.
So there's two very good breakdowns from two very game aware. Oh,
what happened?
He was just working on giving a clip, probably, but then it took over. That's all right. We're figuring out studio, but we'll get some sound bites in here soon. I know what he's going for, but yeah. So good. Those are two very good answers from two very game aware individuals here. Jack's got that's a great breakdown. I co-sign everything you have to say there. So here's the only thing I'll just sort of add is, based on, I don't know if there's a language barrier or not, but based on the breakdown of how those words got put together into the super chat, and kind of the nature of the question, my guess is what you need to work on is your conversational game. Having really good, smooth conversations with people, and just being able to converse with women and strangers and different people, and being very aware of how they're reacting to you, and then being able to move things into the reaction that you're looking for, right? And so that's the skill set. That's probably the skill gap, because Jack laid out some really good steps and some resources, and Troy is a great resource. I have a pickup course that I'll probably do again this year, which is a good resource on how to solve this problem. And Roosh's day game, whatever, day bang or whatever the hell,
Yeah, if you
has,
can find it somewhere,
if you,
but
but it's not. I think I thumbed through that a while ago. It's not bad. There's some good stuff in there. Like, these are all good. The steps laid out, all the steps are good. But if you're just not good at having these conversations with women, it's gonna be a struggle. This is where you're gonna find yourself not progressing. You know the steps already. I think the guy who typed it, the steps really, and a lot of things that brought you to my show. So the gap, the skill gap, is in having these, what I call, seductive conversations that go from comfort, and you know everything is, there's no negative tension, into attraction from the beginning, or having some tension and attraction from even the initial. There isn't a special opener that you're going to get for that. Jack illustrated what I call a circumstantial opener, which is what I would do most of the time. This is why I can never remember my openers, because I just make an observation and I just talk about that, and that's my opener. You know what I mean? So whatever, it could be a shirt, in a concert, it could be something else going on, it could be any, and it's just like, hey, and I just puke it out my mouth because I'm skilled at having these conversations. So that moves into a transition, and then next thing you know, she's in a conversation with me where she has, some desire as well as curiosity built up right from the beginning, and she starts to get invested within the first 60 seconds. And so that's a skill to develop, much like, let's say, public speaking. So my recommendation is that you approach this almost like somebody who's trying to get better at public speaking, which is that you rehearse without necessarily someone there, rehearse, and visualize it going well. Use, as Jack mentioned, or actually as Glenn mentioned, if it doesn't go well, you do a little after action review, what happened, and then rehearse that conversation going better, where you could have made improvements. Do it in the mirror, look at your body language, stuff like that. Get a friend, do some rehearsals that way, and then get out and just have frequent conversations, even with people you're not interested in taking to bed. It's practice. And consider every rejection you get as practice anyway. So there's no bad result. If it doesn't go well, it's just practice. Eventually it will go well. And so this is going to get you to build these skills up. In my mastermind group, guys do that with me directly. And there's the accountability of having a call every week, and a forum to go back on for that. And so in the pickup course, we focus on pickup for that month, and there's the material, and so there's that to get a guy started. So you can pay attention to that later this year. You can send me a private message to get into mastermind, and we'll see if there's openings and you qualify for it. These are all options, or just do what Jack said to do. But the thing is, though, you got to do the practice on having
well,
these good conversations.
might be weird for some guys to hear, but I've gone on record saying that if you can't even open the old man at the grocery store, don't even
Yeah,
try with the hot girl you're into.
exactly.
If you're really having trouble um, keeping a conversation going with a girl you're really into, just practice on strangers you meet when you're out and about. I can have an entire conversation with the elderly guy at the grocery store about
Yeah,
nothing. But that skill transfers over to a girl I'm really interested in, because you learn to pick up on certain things. When she says something, a topic she might inconspicuously mentioned, but something you caught and can go. Uh, Sorry, language. Bleh. English is failing for a moment. People
all
sometimes
right,
forget I'm actually Dutch, but all of a sudden it sometimes happens, brain fart. But
right.
you pick up that topic and you continue the conversation on that topic. You actually learn to listen to people. But a lot of guys, they want to run before they can crawl. It's like, no, just learn a basic human conversation with anybody.
Yeah.
And once you can do it with anybody and everybody, you can do it with the hot chick you're into as well. Because whether we like it or not, whether we like it or not, when we see a hot chick, you're gonna get a bit nervous. I don't know what it is. It's just guys where it's like, shit, she's hot. She ain't got no hands, but still you stand there like, oh, don't want to fuck this up. And I think that's it, because you really just don't want to fuck that up because her titties are great. But just keep breathing and learn to have a decent conversation.
It's good. Well,
At all. Otherwise, you're just lost.
basics, you're done. Yeah. So actually, I'm gonna close the show. That whole I will do that. Hey, Glenn, we'll do that Twitter thing next time, because we just had such a good conversation that we didn't get to it, and that's okay. I got things for next Tuesday. But thanks for
Copy
coming
that.
on.
I got a couple more questions for you.
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
Let me get them for you here real quick.
We're rapid fire though.
Yep. Actually, there's only one. Are all LTRs have an end? Why prolong it if she's stepping out?
Yeah, that's a decision you have to make. You know what I mean? All LTRs end, but it could end when you're 90 years old and you die of butt cancer or whatever. Or it could end tomorrow because she, you know, I don't know, decided to hang out with her brother, like in that guy's sense. That kind of a question is usually somebody who, no offense, guy, but it's usually coming from somebody who's not in a relationship or doesn't do relationships well or is mildly autistic or is trying to, cap on the internet and trying to be a super alpha. It's bullshit. All right. And I know it's bullshit because guys come to me in consults with the same guy who would say some shit like that would then be in a consult 6 months later after he gets an LTR going, I've lost frame, I think, and I had frame. They always say I had frame or she's in my frame, but she's been doing this, that, and the other. And now what do I do? Like, it's the same. I get the same fucking thing from the guy who 6 months ago was just leave her, bro. You know what I mean? And so it's a little bit, it's a bullshit cap. And I think you need to not being a dickhead to you because I don't know how it is, but definitely take a good hard look at yourself on that one, right? Because there's reasons to want to keep it together. There's reasons to want to give it the opportunity. And I would say, generally speaking, we're not, I mean, I hope we're not, you know, narcissists or antisocial personality disorder, psychopath type people, that we actually have healthy attachments to women that we get into long-term relationships with. That's a good thing. And so you can still have the outcome independent, but have a healthy attachment. And with healthy attachment, when you walk away from that relationship, because it's the best answer, you want to know that you gave it all of the opportunity for success, right? Like you don't want to just have these questions in your head. And not only that is, your game skills and your skill in leadership matters as a man. I mean, that'd be just like saying, well, I'm going to war and people die at war. So I guess if my team doesn't fucking listen to me and we all get shot, I mean, that's just what happens, right? Like, no, dude, like your leadership matters. And you work on your leadership skills and your individual skills to make sure you have the best opportunity for success. So if you actually like the girl, which you should because she made it to LTR status, if you don't like the girl, why is she in an LTR with you? Right. So if you like her and you see,
because hate fucking is just that little bit better.
Right. Yeah, you can hate fuck casual partners though. And so if she's made it to LTR, there's going to be some not only attachment there in a good way, a healthy attachment, but there's going to be you wanting it to work out. So you want to make sure that your skills and the opportunity you're creating as a leader of that relationship is as best as it can be before you just make that decision. Or you can be a dickhead, and anytime that she doesn't understand something, doesn't do something you like, you just threaten the relationship or leave or whatever, because relationships always end. You can do that, my friend, but you're not going to really have peak experiences with women, if at all, after a point. And so it's just not a route I recommend you going. It's not alpha. It's not badass. It's fucking dumb, dude. That's not a way to go. Either don't get into relationships to begin with because the girl isn't somebody you want to be in an LTR with, or get in the relationship, have the LTR with all the benefits that does bring you, and then give it the best opportunity for success. I mean, that question is almost like, how come I don't just start a business and go into it half ass and only put in fucking 25% of the effort? Like, it's a weird question to me. You know what
Why
I
do
mean?
I wipe my ass when I'm gonna shit tomorrow anyway?
It's like, it's just a weird question to me. Like, but I'm used to putting in my 100% effort in things that I do, including wiping my own ass, I guess, right? So, like,
I was just thinking about that.
so, like,
100% effort.
right.
Get it in there.
And so
Get clean.
I want to make sure that I'm doing everything to the best of my ability, game and leadership wise. That doesn't mean, though, that of course I sacrifice myself in my well being and my purpose for a relationship that's not going to work out. That's insane. So it's just about doing your best and showing up and being your best and giving this girl in this relationship an opportunity for success. That means actually having conversations sometimes. That means communication of boundaries the right way. That means you're going to make mistakes and so is she, and having some level of forgiveness and gratitude for each other and being able to overcome those, provided she's a willing participant, right? And so that's
Mhm.
what that all is. And it's different for you guys who are not actually dating and pretending to date on the internet, or for those of you guys who are only dating like a little bit casually and not getting some good results. When you get into that longer term situation, you're gonna need these skills even like more so. You know what I mean? It just is what it is. But
Yep.
I think that's a good place to close. Jack, you got any announcements?
Yes, I got one. I have one spot open for my online personal training. Oh, let me type that out in the chat. What's on open for coaching? You get a personalized training schedule, diet plan, weekly form checks, and a monthly consultation with all the other guys. I only train 5 people at a time, so get that while you can, because when the spot is filled, you have to wait until one opens again. Other than that, YouTube channel at Jack Napier Knows, Twitter at Jack Napier Knows, and that is about it. That is about it. Follow my channel for just basic fitness advice, because I notice a lot of guys still haven't even gotten the basics right. And according to Glenn, I'm still not even getting the basics right. I need to work on my chest, man. I need to work on my cleavage.
Well, Glenn's a monster of a human being, though. So we have to. He's another story. But shout out to Glenn Lawrence, who's producing the show. Thanks again, bro, for all your help and your hard work here. And we're doing this every Tuesday at noon for now, for a while. So tune in. And that's it. That's all I got. All right. Thanks for tuning in and the good questions. Thanks to everybody, and have a good one.
Cheers. Hit the like.
Cheers. Yeah. And I'm waiting for Glenn now to end the show.
Presents for all your video, audio editing needs.